May the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be acceptable in thy sight, O Lord, my strength and my Redeemer. Amen. Just before I was ordained deacon and started my ministry in this parish, a very dear friend gave me a book as an ordination gift. I think that this book has been the most spiritually nourishing book that I have read in this time of crisis. It's not a great theological piece, nor is it a beautiful devotion by one of the church fathers, nor is it a book on the life of the saints. It is far simpler. It's a joke. A book that is in itself a play on words. It's called Finding Jesus, and it's a bit like Where's Wally? On every page there is a busy image of all different people doing all sorts of different things. And in amongst this busyness, you have to look for a teeny tiny Jesus in amongst the throng. And he's hard to recognise because sometimes he's hidden in a pot of ice cream. Other times he's a DJ in a disco or a surfer. Other times he's more obvious and can be found next to Moses and the Ten Commandments. Now I wonder if the road to Emmaus was a bit of a Where's Wally moment. That Cleopas and his companion couldn't recognise Jesus because it was just too busy, their mind too crowded, their minds too clouded by the week's events. It was only when they stopped and rested that they recognised Jesus in the simplest of acts, the breaking and the sharing of the bread. Now I could sermonise about the similarities between this narrative and the story of the angels with Sarah and Abraham in the book of Genesis. I might also want to think about the nature of resurrection. Was Christ changed in some way that made him unrecognisable? But I think at this time what is needed is simplicity. That is, like on the road to Emmaus, Jesus is to be found right now in the simple acts of love and fellowship and service. At times like this, it can be hard to find God, to find Jesus in all of the darkness. It's scary, isn't it? We don't know the future, and it may feel for some of us a little bit out of our control. Like the early Christians, we have a great deal to be worried about. Theirs was a tangible, touchable enemy, the Romans. But ours is less so. We can't see this virus without a microscope. We can see its effects and we can feel the effects. But there's not a great deal we can do than simply stay at home. And it can make us all feel just a little bit helpless. However, like the disciples in the upper room before Pentecost and Cleopas and his companion on the road to Emmaus, it is only when we stop seeing death and destruction and start looking for life that we see the resurrection, that we see Jesus. But it's easier said than done though, isn't it? When we are bombarded daily with images of people dying and people scared, it is so easy to stop seeing the light. And that is when we must stop and we must look. like Cleopas and his companion, recognized the resurrection in the breaking of the bread, so we must recognize it in the smallest and most unlikely ways. Like in my finding Jesus, Jesus can be found seemingly to be hiding in plain sight. He is in the eyes, behind the mask of the nurse holding the hand of someone alone in a hospital bed. He is in the hands that scrub the floors of the nursing home. He is tongue poking out with concentration as a child draws a simple rainbow. He is in the concentration of the tired lorry driver trying to deliver food. He is the sound of applause at 8 p.m. He is the mobile phone number on a Helping Hands or COVID-19 group letter. And he is in each of us as we try to make sense of this situation. The resurrection was not just a single moment in time. For Jesus' followers, and indeed for us, the resurrection can be at times a slow burn of realization that Jesus is with us in our joy and in our grief. Signs of resurrection, the love of Jesus, are all around us. We just have to stop and notice them. Amen.